If you're wondering about ads you've seen regarding the $23,000 Social Security bonus you might be missing out on, then you'll want to watch this video as I'll talk more about that, as well as other ways that you can increase your Social Security benefits to receive more over your lifetime. Welcome back. This is episode 274. If you're someone like me who likes to read financial articles and retirement articles online, chances are you've probably seen an article link for the $23,760 Social Security bonus most retirees completely overlook. In this episode, I'll be discussing whether or not that is real, as well as other ways that you can increase your Social Security benefits and the amount that you can receive from Social Security over your lifetime. But before I get into that, if you're 50 and older and you want to learn more about planning your ideal retirement, then consider signing up for my on-demand retirement planning course. It's called Retirement Readiness On Demand, and it's available on my Retire with Ryan website. I take you step by step on how to create your own plan for retirement. We cover taxes, Social Security, Medicare, investments, insurance, estate planning, and much more. The best part is that you get to go through the course at your own pace, and you receive helpful checklists to guide you in planning your ideal retirement. To learn more, head over to retirewithryan.com and click on Retirement Readiness On Demand. So you've probably seen these articles I mentioned at the beginning of this episode regarding the $23,760 Social Security bonus or benefit that you're not aware of. And unfortunately, from my research and extensive knowledge about Social Security, I've read many books, attended courses, lectures, read articles. There is no such thing as an imaginary bonus that you're eligible for that you're missing out on. But I think what this article is trying to get into is that there's many Social Security mistakes that people make as far as leaving Social Security money on the table that they could otherwise be receiving. Now, I've seen this article promoted by different companies, but it seems like Motley Fool is the primary landing page that I tend to get to when I've clicked on this. And they do offer a Social Security guide or course. I think you have to pay for it. It certainly could have some value. So if anybody wants to check that out and give me feedback, or maybe you've read that, let me know if you think this course is worth it. But there are many other books on Social Security as well that you can check out from the library or purchase on Amazon. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this, as I do of many of my episodes, I also offer a course on planning your ideal retirement, and I delve deeply into Social Security with my own course. So what I want to do is share with you 7 ways that you can help increase your Social Security benefit or get more from Social Security over your lifetime. So the first one is working longer. You may not realize, but Social Security has a formula as far as how everyone's benefit is calculated. And that formula is based off your highest 35 years of work history. So if you don't have 35 years of work history, let's say you only worked 30 years and you're going to go on Social Security is going to use some zeros in your calculation. They're going to fill in those years with zeros. So by working longer, by at least having 35 years of work history, that can increase your benefit because therefore no zeros are used in the calculation. Additionally, let's say you do have 35 years of work history, but like most of us starting out in life, your first job is minimum wage somewhere, or it's a very limited amount of hours, and the Social Security is counting those years of employment in your calculation. By working longer into your career, you're going to replace some of those lower earning years with higher earning years, which could also increase your benefit. So tip number 1, work longer. Tip number 2 is delay the collection of your benefits. As you may or may not know, you can start collecting your own Social Security benefit as early as age 62. However, if you do so, you're receiving a reduced benefit. For anyone born in 1960 or later, you're only receiving 70% of the benefit that you would receive as compared to your full retirement benefit, which for anyone born in 1960 or later is age 67. So every month you delay collecting your benefits are growing by about 0.5%. So by delaying your benefits, you're going to be able to receive more. Additionally, between your full retirement age and age 70, you receive an 8% additional increase on your benefits every year that you wait. So if your full retirement is 67, you wait every year until 70, you're going to receive that extra 8% per year, that 24% extra, plus that applies on top of any cost of living adjustments that come out from Social Security during that time frame. So you want to think about delaying your benefits, maybe not collecting them as early as 62. If you do collect at 62, there really should be a good reason for that. Maybe your spouse is working and you're a homemaker and your spouse has a very high benefit, and maybe it makes sense for you to start collecting some money from Social Security and getting some money to the household. Or possibly maybe your health is poor and you want to start collecting Social Security. Those could be reasons to start collecting early. But for the typical person who's in relatively good health and maybe is still working, it can really not make a lot of sense to collect. Because the other thing is that if you do collect your benefits early, between 62 and the year that you reach full retirement, you're limited to how much money you can earn every year and you receive your benefit. Right now, it's a little under $24,000. Once you make over $24,000, your benefit starts getting reduced by $1 for every $2 that you make over that. So by collecting early, if you're still working, making over $24,000 a year, you're not going to receive very much of your benefits. Now that number changes, it goes higher to about $66,000 starting in the year that you reach your full retirement. The benefit goes, the amount you can earn goes up, and then starting in the month you reach full retirement, there is no earnings limit. But anybody collecting between 62 and the year they reach full retirement is significantly limited with what they can earn. So tip number 2 is to consider repaying your benefits. Maybe you didn't know, but let's say you're watching this video, you're listening to this podcast, and you started collecting your benefits at 62, and you started within the last year. Well, you have the option then to repay all of the money that you've received and start the clock over on your benefits. Maybe you thought it was a good idea. Your friend or your neighbor said, you know what, collect your benefits as early as you can because Social Security is going broke. And it is true that Social Security is, the trust fund is running down, but the system is not going broke. So you could repay all that money up to 1 year. Nice thing is without interest, or you don't have to pay interest back on the money you received. And as long as you repay that within 1 year, you have the ability to then restart the clock on your benefits. So you'd have to file Form SSA.521, and this would allow you to repay your benefits up to 1 year. But this also includes any Medicare premiums that you might have been receiving. So let's say you started collecting your benefits at 65, you went on Medicare, you'd have to repay those Medicare premiums too. However, this is a way to restart the clock on your Social Security if you think that you made a mistake by collecting your benefit too early. And you only get one chance to do this per life. So make sure that if you're going to do this, you're pretty confident that it's the right move for you. It also is an important thing that even when you're deciding collecting benefits to make sure that it's the right move for you. Tip number 4 is to make sure you're applying for spousal benefits if you're eligible for them, and understand how spousal benefits work to not make the wrong decision. So with spousal benefits, if you're married to someone and your benefit is less than half of their benefit, you're eligible to collect at least half of their benefit as a spousal benefit. And this could be the case even if you had no work history whatsoever. Your Social Security benefit is showing 0, and your spouse's, let's say, was $3,000 a month. If you follow the rules that I'm going to lay out, you can get a full $1,500 per month. So what are the rules for that? Well, to do this, you have to have been married to your spouse for at least 1 year, and your spouse has to be receiving benefits. So they're either receiving their own benefit because they filed at 62 or later, or they went on Social Security disability and they're now receiving benefits. So to get the full 50%, you'd also have to wait to collect your benefits until your full retirement age, which for most people is, well, let me give you the years. So if you're born 1960 or later, your full retirement age, which I said earlier, is 67. If you're born at 1959, your full retirement age is 66 and 10 months. And if you're born in 1958, your full retirement is 66 and 8 months. Now, most people that are born in 1958, they're very close to hitting their full retirement anyway. So if you're born in 1958 or later, that's where you have to start thinking about, have you reached your full retirement age? So to get that full 50%, you have to reach full retirement and your spouse has to be collecting benefits. You have to be married 1 year. There are a few exceptions to that I'll mention in a minute, but you also can collect your spousal benefit early as age 62. However, you're not going to receive the full 50% of your benefit. You would only get 32.5% of your spouse's benefit. So that's where I was saying earlier, it's important to know that you're eligible for a spousal benefit, but also understand the rules, because yes, you can collect a spousal benefit potentially at age 62 if you satisfy the things we talked about before. You've been married 1 year, your spouse is collecting benefits, but you're not going to get the full 50%. So that could be a big mistake if you collect your benefit early and now you're locked in at that lower benefit and you really could use that extra, the amount that you could get by waiting until full retirement. The only other exception to you collecting your benefit before 62 would be that if you're caring for a child under the age of 16. So if you're caring for a child under the age of 16 or a child who has a disability, then you can collect your benefit before 62. You can receive that spousal benefit. Spousal benefits also don't grow past your full retirement age, meaning that's the maximum you're ever going to receive is that full 50%. It's not going to grow up to 55 or 60 or 70%. So it doesn't make any sense to wait past your full retirement if your Social Security benefit is just going to be a spousal benefit. So important to understand how that works so that you can get the maximum spousal benefit. Also understand about coordinating spousal benefits. Keep in mind that if you're married and your benefit is higher than your spouse's, not only do you have to think about how is it going to impact you when you collect your benefits, but also how it might impact your spouse. So spouses are eligible for a spousal benefit known as a survivor benefit. If you outlive your spouse, you take over the higher of your benefit or your spouse's benefit. So if you're the spouse with the higher earning benefit, then you want to think about not only how it will be best for you when to collect your benefit, but also how you might leave your spouse, as far as leave them behind if they happen to outlive you. So that's why it makes sense if you have a higher benefit than your spouse, if you can do it, waiting probably at least until full retirement to collect your benefit, and maybe even waiting until 70 so that you receive the maximum Social Security benefit, that if your spouse outlives you, they will receive the maximum survivor benefit. Because when a spouse passes away, if your spouse has a higher benefit than you lose your benefit. It goes away, but you then take over the spousal benefit. So that's why it's important for the higher earning spouse to consider waiting until full retirement or later to collect their benefit because of the survivor benefit that they will leave behind. Tip number 6 is to make sure you check your Social Security earnings. Now, every year that you work, whether for yourself or for an employer, your earnings are reported into Social Security. And Social Security has a very high accuracy rate with reporting those numbers correctly. But they do make mistakes, and it's possible that maybe there are numbers on your earnings statement, your earnings record that are wrong. So make sure that you check those and that they look accurate, because you don't want to be in a position where your benefit is less than it should be because Social Security was not reporting your earnings record correctly. And tip number 6 is tip number 7 is watch your tax bracket. I talked about this last week, but for a lot of people, Social Security benefits are taxable. Now, the way that you determine how your Social Security benefits are taxed is you take your other earned income or adjusted gross income for the year, plus half of your Social Security benefit, plus any non-taxable interest you receive. And then depending upon whether you are filing single or married filing jointly determines how much of your Social Security benefit is reported on your income as taxable. So if you're married filing jointly and that number is less than $32,000, then 0 of your Social Security benefit is taxable. As a single filer, if that number is less than $25,000, then also 0 of your Social Security benefit is taxable. So if possible, if you can keep your income underneath that number for a few years, if you're not yet taking IRA distributions, if you're not generating large capital gains in your portfolio, if you're not working part-time, there may be some early years when you collect Social Security that you could pay zero tax on it. How nice would that be? So that's why it's important to understand this number, how it's calculated, and also where your other income's coming from. Let's just say you knew this and you planned ahead and you took some IRA distributions out before you collected Social Security, and that money was sitting in your bank account and you're going to live off that money for a couple of years, well, that's a strategy that would allow you to maybe pay zero tax on your Social Security. Now, once you start collecting Social Security and you're also taking out IRA distributions, or you reach age 73 when you have to start taking out IRA distributions, then it might be harder for you to pay 0% tax on your Social Security. But for those, there might be some years in there where you can strategize and pay zero tax on your Social Security. The next bracket is $32,000 up to $44,000 for married filing jointly, and then $25,000 up to $34,000 for single filers, and then half of your Social Security benefit is taxable, or is reported as taxable income. And then once you go over $44,000 for a married filing jointly, or $34,000 for a single filer, 85% of your Social Security benefit is flowing through to your taxable income. So definitely some things you should be aware of. Unfortunately, I didn't uncover a free $23,000 that I could show you how to collect, but cumulatively over your lifetime, this could be $23,000 and even more as far as additional money in your pocket by making sure you're maximizing your Social Security benefit and or minimizing some of the tax that you pay on your Social Security benefit. A financial advisor can be a big help in helping you understand Social Security, also helping you plan for taxes around Social Security. So if you're looking for more help, feel free to reach out to me by heading over to retirewithryan.com. And additionally, if you have a listener question you want to have considered for a future episode, you can also ask that by heading over to retirewithryan.com and clicking on Ask a Question. Hope that you have a great week, and I look forward to talking to you next Tuesday. Take care.